Jungkook, a 31-year-old young CEO known for his cold demeanor, strict discipline, and perfectionism. He built his reputation on uncompromising leadership, but behind the sharp gleam of his eyes lies a rarely seen side of concern, and it's shown only to one person, his secretary, Park Yin. Yin has worked as Jungkook's personal secretary for a full year. In the beginning, she nearly gave up due to the intense pressure and Jungkook's almost impossible standards. But time and patience shaped their work dynamic into something solid. Jungkook may not be talkative, but Yin knows exactly when he genuinely cares, whether it's the way he holds off work when she looks exhausted, or how he quietly overlooks her small mistakes that no other staff would get away with. But today, all that professionalism is put to the test. 1:30 p.m. Yin nearly dropped her phone when a message from her best friend, Yugyeom, popped up. Yin, Scarlett Ingrid Johansson is at the hotel I work at right now. There's a last-minute fan meet at 2 p.m. private event. I can sneak you in, but it's only for 1 hour. Get here now. Scarlett, Natasha Romanoff, the fictional character who made Yin fall in love with Marvel since high school. She wasn't just an idol. She was a symbol of strength and self-confidence. Meeting her felt like a once-in-a-lifetime dream. The problem? Yin was still at work, under the sharp watch of Jungkook. She looked at the clock, 50 minutes left. Her brain started racing to come up with a plan. With steady steps, though her heart pounded wildly, she stood up, grabbed an empty folder for effect, and headed to the office door of the man who had been her boss for the past 12 months. "Come in," came the usual calm, deep voice. Yin entered, slightly bowing her head, and walked toward the large, tidy desk where Jungkook was reviewing important documents. His eyes lifted when he saw her. Her usually bright expression was replaced with a feigned pale and weak look. "I'm sorry to disturb you, sir. I'm not feeling well. My stomach feels bloated and a bit nauseous. I think my ulcer is acting up again." Jungkook stared at her in silence, his eyes reading far beyond her words, but his face remained neutral. Finally, he gave a slow nod. "You may go home, but make sure to rest. Don't go wandering around." Yin bowed slightly. "Thank you, sir." As soon as she exited the room, her steps completely changed. She pressed the elevator button with excitement, almost jumping as the doors opened. Her heart screamed with joy. "Scarlett Johansson, I'm coming." Breathless from running, Yin arrived at the hotel lobby. Her eyes quickly found Yugyeom in his staff uniform, with his ID hanging around his neck. "Yin, here's your VIP pass. You can get in through the staff hallway." Scarlett has already started greeting fans. Yin patted Yugyeom's shoulder energetically. "I'll never forget this for the rest of my life, Yugyeom. I owe you my life. If I had 9 lives, you can take 1. No, take 3. Yugyeom tapped her head lightly. "Stop rambling nonsense. Hurry up and get in there." "Okay," Yin shouted, grabbing the pass and dashing toward the exclusive event room. As soon as she entered, the atmosphere instantly shifted. The room was filled with about 30 fans, and at the far end, on a sofa under warm lighting, sat the woman herself. Scarlett Ingrid Johansson. With her signature smile and unmatched elegance, she looked like she had just stepped straight out of the movie screen. Yin's eyes welled up with tears. She held her breath. "Natasha Romanoff," she whispered in disbelief. Yin took a seat in the middle row, both hands clutching her VIP pass and photo. Her smile hadn't left her face since she walked in. Her heart pounded like she'd just downed 5 cups of coffee. She still couldn't believe it. This was really Scarlett, Natasha Romanoff, the woman who had inspired her for years. After a brief queue in a session, fans were called up one by one for autographs and photos. "Number 21, Park Yin," announced the staff member while scanning the list. Yin's heart leapt into her throat. With slightly trembling hands, she stood from her chair. But in her excitement and rush, the heel of her shoe caught on the thick ballroom carpet. In an instant, thud, Yin fell, sprawled right in front of Scarlett Johansson. The room went silent. But instead of laughing or gasping dramatically, Scarlett immediately stood from the sofa, bent down, and gently reached for Yin's hand. "Oh no, are you okay, sweetheart?" she asked in a soft and sincere tone. Yin froze, not from pain, but because Scarlett Johansson was holding her hand. "I'm fine," Yin replied in a barely audible voice. "I just tripped on my own excitement." Scarlett let out a gentle laugh, still holding her arm. "That's the best kind of fall. Come here, let's take that photo, and I'll give you a special autograph. You've earned it." Yin nodded quickly, her face flushed bright red. Other fans smiled warmly at the scene. Even the photographer managed to snap the moment Scarlett helped her up. Once Yin stood beside Scarlett, the actress wrapped an arm around her shoulders for the photo. "Smile like you just fell into the arms of Black Widow," Scarlett whispered teasingly. Yin laughed shyly, eyes glistening with emotion. Click, one shot, one moment, a lifetime memory. Scarlett then signed Yin's poster and added a small note, "To the cutest fall I've ever seen, stay strong, always. Love, Scarlett." Yin took the poster with both hands, nearly in tears. "Thank you so much," she whispered. Scarlett simply smiled, then gave her a playful wink. "You made my day." The fan meeting ended perfectly. Yin stepped out of the ballroom, her face glowing like a child who had just received their dream toy. In her hands were a poster signed by Scarlett Johansson and a quick Polaroid photo taken with the actress herself. Her smile was impossible to hide. "I still can't believe I just met Natasha Romanoff," she said, hugging the poster tightly. Yugyeom laughed, patting her on the shoulder. "See it for yourself? Good thing I work at this hotel. Imagine if you found out through Instagram. You would have missed out for sure." "Listen carefully, Yugyeom." Yin turned to him with an overly dramatic, serious expression. "Starting today, you're not just my best friend. You're my hero. I swear. I'm going to paint your face and hang it in my living room." Yugyeom raised an eyebrow. "A painting?" "Hyper-realistic," Yin replied without missing a beat. They laughed together while walking out of the hotel toward the nearest bus stop. Yugyeom had just finished his shift too, and they planned to wait for the bus together. The late afternoon breeze blew gently. Traffic was busy but flowing smoothly. They stood on the roadside, still laughing as they chatted about Scarlett's expression when fans cried, and how Yin nearly slipped because she was so nervous. Meanwhile, in a sleek black car cruising calmly in the right lane, Jungkook sat in the back seat wearing a dark suit and tie. His phone displayed details about a last-minute meeting with one of their business partners. He had just pressed the mute button on an internal call when his eyes caught something outside the window. And there she was, Yin, standing at the bus stop, laughing freely with a young man. Her face showed no sign of fatigue or illness. In fact, she looked far too lively for someone who had claimed to be suffering from an ulcer just a few hours ago. Jungkook's gaze hardened. He slowly lowered his phone. His jaw clenched, and the look in his eyes turned cold. His driver remained unaware, still focused on the road ahead. Of course, he wasn't a fool. He knew the look of real exhaustion. He could tell when someone was truly unwell, and when they were lying. And Yin had just lied to him. Still, instead of ordering the driver to turn around or furiously messaging Yin, Jungkook simply turned his head, leaned back on his seat, and closed his eyes for a moment. "All right, Yin," he muttered quietly. "You're off the hook today. Just wait for tomorrow." Today, the office felt quieter than usual. Yin sat at her desk like always, trying to focus on typing up a report. But her heart was unsettled. Since she arrived that morning, Jungkook hadn't stepped out of his office, which was unlike him. Every second dragged by. Guilt gnawed at her. She knew there was a high chance her lie from yesterday had already been found out, but she didn't have the courage to confirm it. Until finally, the intercom on her desk lit up. "Come to my office, now." His voice was flat, cold, and that was exactly what made the hairs on Yin's neck stand up. Holding her breath, Yin stood up, straightened her clothes, and walked toward Jungkook's office door. Her hand trembled slightly as she raised it to knock, but she knew there was no point in delaying. "Come in." Yin opened the door and stepped inside. Jungkook was seated behind his desk, leaning back on his chair, one hand propping up his chin. His sharp gaze pierced through her. "Sit." Yin obeyed. She slowly sat on the chair across from him. Silence hung heavy for a few seconds. Then, "I never expected this from you, Park Yin. You had the nerve to lie to me." Jungkook's voice was calm but filled with pressure. His words were sharp like blades. Yin looked down. Not a single word came out of her mouth. "Yesterday, you said you were sick. You said your ulcer was acting up," Jungkook continued, narrowing his eyes. "But then I saw you, standing at a bus stop, laughing with a man." Yin felt the blood drain from her body. She wanted to explain, to say it was just a quick fan meeting, but her mouth stayed shut. There was no excuse for the lie she told. "So not only did you lie, you went out on a date?" His voice rose slightly, not loud, but heavy with disappointment. Yin quickly looked up. "It's not like that, sir." "Oh really? So you want to say you didn't lie? Were you truly sick yesterday?" Yin remained silent. The fact was, she did lie. You've worked with me for a year. I trusted you. But clearly, that trust was foolish. Turns out you're not capable of protecting it. Yin bit her lower lip. Her eyes began to sting, but she held the tears back. She deserved to be scolded. She was wrong. But still, his words cut deep. Starting today, Jungkook said quietly, standing from his chair and walking toward the window as if he didn't want to see her face anymore. I don't want something like this to ever happen again. If you want time off, just say it. Don't try to win my sympathy by claiming you're sick. Don't ever try to manipulate my trust again. Understood, sir. That's all I have to say. You may return to your desk. Yin slowly stood up, bowing deeply, and walked out of the room with her head hung low. Since that day, everything had changed. Jungkook, who was always known to be cold, but had been just a little warmer toward her, was now treating her just as coldly as he treated any other employee. Bring these documents to the meeting room, now. Reprint yesterday's report. There's an error. Call the division head, quickly. Each command sounded colder than usual. All were spoken in a flat tone, without even looking at her, as if she were nothing more than a machine, not a person. And Yin fully realized that. She knew this change had happened because of her own mistake. To make up for it, she threw herself into work even harder than before. She came in earlier, went home later. She made sure every report was flawless, not a single error. Even when Jungkook didn't ask, she prepared backup plans, supporting documents, and even secondary data that might be needed. But still, there was no change. Every time Jungkook passed by without glancing at her, Yin felt a tightness in her chest. Every time he spoke in that overly flat tone, her heart sank. And during the quiet hours of overtime, when all the other employees had gone home and only the faint sound of the printer filled the room, Yin whispered to herself, "Stupid. You've been so stupid, Park Yin." She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, trying to hold back the pain in her chest. How deeply she regretted it. She had spent an entire year building Jungkook's trust, slowly, from nothing, and all of it was destroyed by one small lie, which, to her, now felt enormous. What hurt even more wasn't just the loss of trust. It was the fact that she had secretly fallen for him. Yes, the feeling had grown slowly, not dramatically, not all at once, but over time, through the small acts of kindness Jungkook had shown her. When he gave her an umbrella on a rainy day, he held off assigning her more work because she looked tired. When he told her to go home early after working late into the night, all those little things had made her fall. But she knew her place. She knew where she stood. She was just a secretary, an ordinary employee, while Jungkook was a brilliant young CEO, living in a world far beyond her reach. Perhaps Jungkook's type was someone on his level, smart, charming, from a respectable family. Not someone like her, just a shadow assistant behind the long conference table. Just being his trusted person was enough. That's what she had always told herself. Even if she couldn't have his heart, at least she could stand by his side, see him up close. But now, even that role was gone. And it turned out, being treated coldly by the person you secretly love hurt far more than she had ever imagined. 4 days later. It was only 7:12 a.m. when Yin sat in the hospital waiting room, accompanying her mother, who was waiting for her consultation turn. Her mother had looked pale since the night before, and Yin could no longer hold back her worry. So, early in the morning, she decided not to go to work and focus on bringing her mother to the hospital. Since dawn, Yin had mustered the courage to send a message to the one person who would definitely not be pleased to receive this news. "Good morning, sir. Sorry to bother you. I can't come in today because I have to accompany my mother to the hospital. Her condition worsened last night. I hope for your understanding." She sent the message with trembling fingers. Yin knew she could have called, but she couldn't bear to hear Jungkook's cold voice, so she chose a text, the safest way. She stared at her phone screen for a long time, hoping there would be no reply, or at least a short one that wouldn't crush her heart even more. But that hope vanished in under 3 minutes. "Oh really? Just like when you said you were sick, but I saw you laughing with a guy? Now you're saying your mom is sick? Alright then, enjoy your day off." The message hit her chest harder than she expected. She stared at the screen, hands trembling, lips pressed tightly together. She wanted to cry, but she knew she couldn't. Not in front of her mother, not here in this hospital waiting room. She let out a quiet sigh and chose not to reply, not because she had nothing to say, but because she knew whatever she said would only make Jungkook angrier. "Have you informed your office, sweetheart?" her mother suddenly asked in a weak voice. Yin quickly nodded. forcing a smile. I have, Mom. Everything's taken care of. You just focus on your checkup. But in her heart, a storm had already broken. She didn't know how long Jungkook would keep treating her this way. But one thing was clear. This was all the result of a single mistake she had made. And so she remained seated quietly beside her mother, eyes lowered to the floor, trying to swallow the pain that kept piling up in her chest. The next morning, Yin returned to the office. She walked carefully through the lobby, carrying 2 thick folders containing the financial reports that had to be submitted that day. Her expression was neutral, but her eyes looked tired, not just because of work, but because her mind had never truly rested since her mother's illness relapsed. That day, Jungkook remained cold, just like the previous days, maybe even colder, and Yin didn't try to explain anything about her absence the day before. She knew Jungkook probably wouldn't believe her anyway. What mattered was that she had sent notice. For her, that was better than not showing up without a word. 2 days later, the office was beginning to quiet down as the afternoon neared its end. Some staff had already gone home early after finishing their tasks. Yin, as usual, remained at her desk facing the CEO's office door. She had just completed the weekly report and was about to bring it into Jungkook. Her phone vibrated. The name Mom appeared on the screen. Gently, Yin answered and leaned back in her chair. Her voice was barely above a whisper, filled with tenderness and deep concern. Yes, Mom, I'm still at the office, she said softly. Your medicine? Yes, I'll buy it on my way home, okay? The blood pressure pills ran out yesterday, right? Jungkook, who had just stepped out of his office, paused behind the glass partition. Yin's voice, though quiet, could be heard faintly from where he stood. Please eat your lunch, Mom. You said you skipped it because you overslept. Yin's voice wavered slightly. You can't do that. If you skip meals, your condition will only get worse. Her tone softened even more, almost like soothing a child. Don't stress yourself, so your body can recover soon. I won't be late coming home, I promise. I'll bring the bread you like too. Silence, a pause. Then she slowly ended the call, her eyes fixed on the blank screen for a few seconds before returning to sort the documents on her desk. Jungkook stood still behind the partition, his body frozen, but his mind running in circles. He had just overheard Yin talking to her mother. Her words, the way she spoke, the calm and caring tone, even the sad expression she wore as she ended the call, none of it seemed like a lie. And in that moment, Jungkook felt a pang in his chest. So she hadn't lied. Her mother really was sick. Yin had even seemed to hold back tears during the call, not to defend herself, not to justify anything, but because she was genuinely worried and emotionally drained. Jungkook slowly inhaled. A quiet guilt weighed in his chest. He had been too harsh, too quick to judge, and now, the only way to fix that was to ask her directly, with calmness, not anger. He walked back into his office and pressed the intercom button. Park Yin, come to my office, now. Yin entered carefully. This time, she didn't feel afraid like before, just resigned. Maybe she'd be reprimanded again, but she was ready. Have a seat, Jungkook said, his voice softer than usual. Yin sat down, her head slightly lowered. Then Jungkook spoke again, and this time, his tone sounded different. How's your mom? Yin was surprised. She immediately looked at him. His eyes were serious, but there was no anger, only concern. It took her a few seconds to respond. She's doing better now, sir, but these past few days, her heart condition has been acting up. That's what's been worrying me. So that day, I really did take her to the hospital. I wasn't lying. Jungkook remained silent, listening. His face was unreadable, but his eyes stayed locked on hers. But I won't try to justify the lie I told before, Yin continued, her voice trembling slightly. That day, when I said I was sick, I did lie, but it wasn't to go on a date, not like what you thought. Jungkook stared at her. Then where did you go? Yin took a deep breath and gave a sheepish smile. I went to a fan meeting. Scarlett Ingrid Johansson came to Seoul unexpectedly. I've been a big fan of Natasha Romanoff since high school, and I really wanted her autograph. So I pretended to be sick. I only found out about the event from a friend who works at the hotel. He's the one I was with at the bus stop. The room fell silent for a moment. Then Jungkook leaned back on his chair, staring deeply at her. Scarlett Johansson? He repeated slowly. His voice was neutral, but the corner of his mouth twitched, almost like he was trying not to smile. Yin quickly lowered her head again. I know I was wrong. I know I broke your trust. I didn't mean to take advantage of it. I was just swept up in the excitement. Jungkook didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, he spoke quietly. If you had told me from the beginning, I might have allowed it. Yin looked up, eyes wide. What? I don't know much about Marvel, but if you had been honest, I wouldn't have minded. You could have gone for that, then returned to the office. Jungkook stood from his chair and walked slowly to the side of the window. But because you chose to lie, I saw you the same way I see any other employee looking for a loophole. Yin lowered her head again. I understand, sir. But about your mom, Jungkook continued, his tone softening. I'm the one who should apologize for doubting you. That was my mistake. Yin stayed silent. It was the first time she had ever heard Jungkook apologize, and she didn't know what to say. From now on, Jungkook said as he sat back down, if something personal or family related is bothering you, just tell me the truth. Don't make me guess. I'm not someone who likes guessing. Yin nodded quietly. Thank you, sir. Jungkook stared at her for a few more seconds before finally saying, you may return to your desk. Yin stood and bowed deeply, but just before she reached the door, Jungkook called out to her again. Park Yin. Yes, sir. If any other Marvel members come again and you want to meet them, just tell me honestly. Don't pretend to be sick again. Yin froze. She turned quickly, but Jungkook was already focused on the documents on his desk, as if he hadn't said anything. A wide smile spread across Yin's face. Thank you, sir. Jungkook only mumbled a quiet reply without looking up, and for the first time in the past week, a small smile returned to both of their faces. Since that day, since the conversation about her mother, Jungkook's attitude toward Yin began to change. Still calm, still serious, but no longer cold. And most noticeably, he began to pay attention to her again. Every day, right at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, while most employees were still buried in their work, the intercom on Yin's desk would ring. Park Yin, that's enough work for today. Go home now. At first, Yin thought it was a one-time thing, but it wasn't. The next day, and the day after that, Jungkook told her to leave work 2 hours earlier than usual. Yin had politely refused on the second day. But I can still finish a few reports, sir. But Jungkook simply glanced at her from behind his glasses and replied flatly, the reports can wait until tomorrow. Your mom can't wait until tomorrow to feel better. That sentence made Yin fall silent. There was no longer any anger or disappointment in his tone. No more cold glares or looks that made her feel insignificant. All that was left was an unspoken kind of care. And it wasn't just about her early departures. Jungkook now began calling her in a slightly gentler tone than before. No longer issuing commands in clipped phrases, but starting with, could you help me with this for a moment? Or if you have time, I'll need additional data for tomorrow's presentation. Those subtle changes for Yin were more than enough. Slowly, she felt like she was back in those early months when she first began to earn his trust. Jungkook was back to his usual self, cold to everyone else, but just a little warmer to her. Sir, I've finished arranging everything for tomorrow's agenda. I'll head home now, Yin said when she bumped into Jungkook in front of the elevator. She was a little nervous. Even though things weren't as tense as before, this was still Jeon Jungkook. Not only was he her boss, but deep down, she had feelings for him. And now, as he started treating her kindly again, her heart couldn't help but flutter all over again. Jungkook glanced at his watch and gave a small nod. Be careful on your way home. And just as she thought, his voice was gentler now. Yin gave a small smile, her cheeks slightly flushed. Thank you, sir. The elevator doors opened. Yin stepped in first, but just before the doors closed, Jungkook parted his lips, almost as if he was about to say something, but he held back. And once the elevator doors were fully closed, he stood there, just for a few seconds, because even if his mouth stayed shut, his mind hadn't stopped thinking about her. There was something he had wanted to say. It was Friday, and everything was running as usual. The office atmosphere was calm, with some employees busy wrapping up tasks before the weekend. Yin was organizing several documents that needed to be submitted after lunch when the intercom on her desk lit up again. Park Yin, please come to my office, now. Yin stood up, knocked on the door, and entered. Jungkook was sitting behind his desk, this time without any documents in hand. His gaze immediately met hers. Have a seat, he said briefly. Yin sat down, looking at him curiously. I need your help this Sunday, Jungkook said directly. I've been invited to a wedding. It's my college friend's wedding. I want you to come with me. Yin looked a little surprised. Oh, is this a business event, sir? No, it's a personal invitation, Jungkook replied plainly. Yin's expression turned hesitant. In that case, shouldn't you be going with someone more appropriate? I mean, I'm just your secretary, sir, and we're only co-workers. Jungkook looked at her calmly. I know, but so far, there's no woman closer to me than you. That sentence made Yin freeze in place. Her heart immediately pounded. She didn't know what to say. Jungkook continued, this time more softly. You don't have to come if you're uncomfortable, but if you agree, I'll pick you up on Sunday, around 3 p.m. Yin lowered her head for a moment, considering many things, but for some reason, her heart couldn't say no. Finally, she spoke quietly, I'll come, sir. Jungkook gave a slight nod, and for the first time that day, the corner of his lips lifted slightly. All right then, I'll come pick you up on Sunday. Yin nodded with a small smile before politely excusing herself and walking out of the room, with her heart racing fast. There's no woman closer to me than you. That sentence kept echoing in her head, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop smiling. Crystal chandeliers hung majestically from the ceiling of the spacious ballroom. Reflections of light danced across the marble-clad walls, making the room gleam even more brightly. Amid the soft strains of classical music and the scent of fresh flowers, guests took turns offering their congratulations to the newlyweds on the main stage. Jungkook walked calmly, dressed in a deep black suit that accentuated his striking posture. Beside him, Yin looked graceful in a simple yet elegant navy dress. Though she appeared composed on the outside, her heart was racing uncontrollably. As they stepped onto the stage, Minju, the handsome and friendly groom, turned toward them, his eyes lighting up. He greeted Jungkook with a warm embrace. Jeon Jungkook, oh my god, you finally showed up, he exclaimed cheerfully. You're still annoyingly handsome as ever. Look at that face, what do you bathe in formalin or something? Jungkook chuckled lightly, returning the hug. You're still as loud as ever, but I'm glad someone was finally patient enough to marry you. Minju laughed heartily. My wife said the exact same thing this morning. His gaze then shifted to Yin, and he gave her a playful wink. And this? Who's this? Don't tell me. Your girlfriend? Yin instantly tensed. Oh, But before she could finish, Jungkook turned to Minju and answered calmly, but meaningfully, she's someone very important to me. Yin froze. Those words made the whole world feel like it had stopped for a moment. Minju raised an eyebrow, his expression shifting from teasing to curious. Wow, that answer's too diplomatic, man. But your tone, and the way you look at her, says more than enough. Jungkook gave a faint smile. I don't like explaining with words, but if you're perceptive enough, you'll get it. Minju laughed, patting Jungkook's shoulder. Damn, you haven't changed. Still mysterious and deadly. But congratulations, bro. You deserve someone who can make you talk that gently. Minju then warmly accepted Yin's handshake. You're amazing. If a guy like him shows up to his best friend's wedding with someone he calls very important, that means he's serious. Yin smiled shyly. Thank you, and congratulations on your wedding. Minju nodded. Thank you, and take good care of Jungkook. He may seem calm on the outside, but his heart is fragile. People like him, quiet ones, when they fall in love, they can love too deeply. Jungkook scoffed lightly. Stop making me sound sentimental on your own big day. Minju chuckled, then gave Yin a brief hug. I wish you both the very best. As they stepped down from the stage to enjoy the reception, Yin still couldn't fully enjoy the festive atmosphere. Her mind kept echoing Jungkook's earlier words. Someone very important. That sentence kept spinning in her head, warming her heart more than anything she had ever imagined. The night sky felt peaceful. City lights streaked softly past the car windows as the vehicle moved steadily through the quiet streets. Inside the cabin, a silence hung between them. Jungkook was driving with one hand, the other resting on his lap. Yin sat still in the passenger seat, but her heart was full of questions ever since the reception. Sir, Yin finally broke the silence. Her voice was soft, yet enough to fill the quiet air. Earlier, when your friend asked if I was your girlfriend, and you answered so ambiguously, what did you mean by that? Jungkook didn't respond right away. His eyes stayed on the road, but instead of answering, he slowly pulled over into a calm, secluded area, then turned off the engine. The hum of the car faded, replaced by a deeper silence. He turned to her. Do you really want to know the truth? Yin nodded slightly, even though her heart was already pounding. I said that because I didn't want to lie, Jungkook said quietly. But honestly, I've been trying to find the right moment to say it. He took a soft breath, then looked deeper into her eyes. Yin, I like you. The words made Yin's breath catch. She could hardly believe she was hearing them out loud. I like you. not because you're my secretary, but because you're just you. Kind, patient, hardworking, and never one to complain. I've seen it all, even when you didn't know I was watching. Yin stayed quiet, her eyes locked on his in a mix of shock and confusion. And that day, Jungkook continued, his voice shifting slightly with emotion, when I saw you at the bus stop, with that guy, laughing together. I know I had no right to feel anything, but honestly, I was incredibly jealous. Yin's eyes widened. Jealous? Jungkook nodded slowly. It felt like something inside me shattered. I thought you were on a date. I thought you belonged to someone else, and I didn't know why it hurt so much. Maybe because I had been secretly hoping, all this time. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly, a faint smile tugging at his lips. That's also why I acted so cold afterward. I let my emotions get the better of me. But when I found out your mom was sick, and I saw how you spoke on the phone, barely holding back tears, I realized I was wrong. I misjudged you. I jumped to conclusions too fast. Yin looked down. Her eyes began to glisten. If I can be honest too, sir, I actually like you as well. She lifted her head with a faint smile. But I never dared to hope for more, because I'm just your secretary. Our worlds are too different. So are you really sure about all this? Jungkook looked at her gently. Don't say our worlds are too far apart, because you're the one who makes my life feel closer to reality. More alive. I don't need a woman from the same world as mine to stand beside me, Yin. I just need someone who can make me happier and feel at ease. And that someone is you. They looked at each other, long, warm. So, Jungkook continued, his voice low but steady. If you feel the same way, I want to start this. Slowly, no rush, but with honesty. Yin looked down again, but this time her smile was more sincere. In that case, alright, I want to be with you. Jungkook gently reached for her hand, holding it firmly in his. No more words were spoken after that, because that night, inside the quiet, warm car, they both finally understood one thing. That the feelings they had buried for so long had finally found a place to grow together.